Right, we're going to do a little sun salutation here. This is on a push-up platform at a park. Forrest is going to demonstrate. On an inhale, he'll stretch up, do a slight back bend. As he exhales, he brings his hands down to the bar. He'll inhale and jump back to plank. On an exhale, he'll descend closely to the bar, drive his chest closed, drive his hips up, slide the shoulder blades down, coming into upward facing dog. He'll shift his hips back and up into downward facing dog. Stepping forward with his right foot, toes slightly turned out. He's going to sweep his arms upward, coming into crescent lunge. Whoops. Second try, a little better. Good, his fingers are interlaced, and he's coming into a slight back bend. On an exhale, his hands come back down to the bar. He inhales into plank. Exhaling as he descends towards the bar. Inhaling, driving the hips forward, coming into upward facing dog. Lifting, diving back through dive bomber, push up into downward facing dog. Step forward now with the left foot. Inhaling as he sweeps his arms up into crescent lunge, interlacing his fingers, turning his palms upwards towards the sky, leaning his weight towards the back leg. Big stretch here on that right hip. On an exhale, descending to the bar. Inhaling, stepping back. Exhale, descending towards the bar. Inhaling, upward facing dog. Shoulders down, ribs and chest lifted. Gaze upwards towards the sky. Exhale into downward facing dog. He's going to roll his shoulders out here, do a little work on scapular retraction, scapular rotation. Try to loosen up that upper back. On an inhale, he'll step forward with the right leg. Again, toes just slightly turned out here. And here he's going to do a little variation. Good. Hooking that back of his right hand to the left waist, left hand to the outside of the right knee. Turning his chest and hips to the right as he leans back towards the left leg. Hands back to the bar. Straightening the right leg, rocking back on the right heel to stretch the right hamstring. He pulls back on his right hip. Squeeze the inner thighs together. After about 4 or 5 deep breaths, stepping back into plank on an inhale, descending towards the bar on an exhale, inhaling, driving the hips forward, coming into upward facing dog. Here you want to try to pull the hips through the wrists, hips lead up and back into downward facing dog. Second side here, so left foot steps forward. Notice his shins against the bar for balance. Left toe slightly turned out. Back of the left hand's going to hook around the right waist. Right hand to the outside of the left knee. It's going to turn his body to the left as he leans back into that right leg, stretching the right hip flexors, both internal and external. He's now going to stretch that left hamstring, rocking back on the left heel, really trying to pull back on that left hip, driving his right hip forward, squeezing the inner thighs towards one another. Notice he's doing his best here to keep a straight back. Dropping down, scooping up, coming back into upward facing dog. Little shoulder rolls here. Hips up and back, downward facing dog. Notice his feet are close together, but the heels are slightly apart. Stepping forward with the right foot, with the right toes slightly turned out. Good, and we have a straight arm twist here. Good. Left hand, left fingers grab the inside of the left thigh. Right hand's going to come up. Good. And switching over to the other side. Now left hand to left leg. Or sorry, right hand to right leg. Left arm sweeps up. Both hands back down to the bar. Good. We're going to go for a little balance work here. So a variation of Ardha Chandrasana or standing splits. Notice that he's really trying to keep that back leg straight. Slight internal rotation, even though the hip wants to go into external rotation. He'll step back now. Come back into plank. Exhale as he descends towards the bar. Inhale into upward facing dog. Good. A few shoulder rolls. Try to open up the shoulders and neck. He'll lift his hips up and back, downward facing dog. Step forward on an inhale with the left foot. Good. He'll sweep up with the hands here. Notice again that that shin is part to the bar for additional balance. Good. Notice how the depth of that back bend is increasing as he gets warmer in his muscles and looser in his joints. Good. He missed that standing splits on this side, so he's going to go back and hit those standing splits. It's very natural for that hip to want to go into external rotation. You do get a little added benefit if you try to spin the toes down and heels upward, which you'll see him making that correction right now. Good. And it's normal, guys, to shake a little bit when you're doing this. It's just a, byproduct of trying to hold a static posture. It's going to happen to everybody. Good. Beautiful upward facing dog there. Hips up and back, downward facing dog. Good. A narrow variation on Prasarita Padottanasana. Heels wide, toes inward. It's a great variation for downward facing dog to stretch that lateral hamstring. Notice he's doing a good job pushing his knees in opposite directions, doing his best to try to flatten out that back, keeping his chin tucked. Good. With external rotation on the hips, he's going to drop down into Malasana. Nice part about using a bench like this, guys, is you have a surface to grab onto. So notice that that platform that he's on is on a slight incline, so he can grab and lean back and do his best to straighten the back. So if you haven't had a chance to try this yet, be sure to give it a shot.